Hello, everyone, and thanks very much for listening into this conversation, which is all about how to master the exam mindset. My name is Isabel, and I'll be introducing my special guest, Andrew, in just a second. But we're recording this with just over a week to go until the next exam session. And I'm sure many of you watching are experiencing a mixture of emotions. You could be feeling nervous, you could be feeling stressed, perhaps even a little bit excited, you never know. And that's why we've come together today to chat and work out how you can channel all of these different emotions into exam success by mastering that exam mindset and finding a way to focus your attention on the activities that will help you get the most out of the next few days. Now, time to introduce my guest for today. I'm really pleased to be joined today by Andrew Mower. He's an expert ACCA tutor and a mindset coach. So hello, Andrew. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, Isabel. Thanks so much for having me.
Maybe we could start with a quick introduction. Maybe you could give us a brief overview of your role and what it is you do.
Yeah, brilliant. So I worked at Kaplan as a tutor for just over 10 years and then recently I've just sort of going off on my own. So I'm now a freelance tutor and I specialize in ACCA AFM. I'm just launching my own course of that at the moment. So it's been a busy time. And I'm also, as you said, a mindset coach. So I love helping students, not just with the technique and the knowledge they need to pass exams, but really focusing on their confidence and their mindset going into exams. I think it's a really underlooked bit of exams, this whole mindset and the frame of mind you're in as you go into that exam room. So I really want to help students with that. And I've worked with students in the past who potentially lack a little bit of confidence, although their knowledge is great, they just can't seem to translate that into a pass. And so I'm here to help those students.
I think you're absolutely right. Something that really deserves a lot of attention because, like you say, you can have all the technical knowledge and the confidence in your skills, but if you lack the confidence in applying that to the exam itself, then that's really tricky. We'll get onto the mindset side of things shortly, but I wanted to start with just a quick get your tips for the next week. What activities should students be completing in their final week before the exam?
Yeah, it's a great question. And a lot of students ask that, like, what can I do? I've only got a few days left. What shall I do? The single best thing you can do is just doing questions to time. So replicating those exam conditions. So no notes, put yourself under a bit of time pressure, use ACCA's platform as well. So practice actually in the platform. Ideally, you'd be doing full mocks as well, at least a couple before the real exam with only a week to go. So it's all about now just getting into that practice mode. Just so, again, when you walk into that exam, there aren't any shocks. Oh, I didn't know the software did this, or I didn't realize this exam is really time pressured. You want to be completely familiar with that. You need to know exactly how it's going to look and how it's going to feel. So it's all about practicing questions to time at this point. I would then go back to my notes only when I find an area that I'm struggling with, or you think, oh, I need to revise that. Okay, now I'll go back to my notes rather than the other way around, which a lot of students do, which is spend way too long revising the stuff, but don't practice enough. So it's all about practice.
And I think we'll get onto this, but I guess practice really helps boost your confidence as well, helps you feel prepared, which is going to be great for your exam mindset. So we've mentioned that you are a mindset coach as well as a tutor. So let's start with the basics. This is a very straightforward question, but I guess maybe a slightly complicated answer. What is a positive exam mindset and why is it so important for students?
Yeah, it is a simple question, as you say. A positive mindset is all about belief and, really importantly, self-belief as well. So students need to go into these exams thinking, I can pass this, I will pass this exam. And I come across a lot of people who go into these exams thinking, well, I'm not too confident, I'm not sure I'm going to pass this could go badly. And if you're thinking like that going in, then almost inevitably it will go badly. So it's a little bit of, if you believe one thing, that tends to be what happens going forwards. So it's all about going into these exams thinking, right, I can do this. I've got that belief. I've got that confidence that I am actually going to be able to achieve that. And going in with that positive mindset then means if something does go maybe a little bit against what you're hoping, if you get a question you didn't like, or maybe there's a little bit of a calculation that you didn't quite get right, if you've got that positive mindset and you just think, it's fine, that's not a problem, I can just keep going, then you're much more likely to do well, rather than what some students do is then go, right, can't do this, I'm leaving this whole question out, or they got that negative thought and it's like, no, I knew I was destined not to be able to pass this exam, so there's no point even carrying on. Whereas if you're thinking, no, I'm going to pass this, that's not going to let me stop, and I'm just going to keep going and just do this. So it's all about that positivity, and that, again, almost thinking, I am going to pass this, nothing's going to stop me, and that is almost a superpower, isn't it, going into these exams?
It really is. And I think I recognized and I related when you said, that negative spiral you go down to, that default to, oh, I was destined to fail this. I've experienced that in different settings before, and it's overpowering sometimes. It is definitely something you need to train yourself out of. And speaking of which, I wanted to ask you, what kind of techniques and strategies you think that students can use to help build that positive mindset?
Yeah, again, it's a really good question. And I did a course recently, and there's a German psychologist called Gabrielle Oettingen, and she's got a method called the WOOP technique. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it's WOOP. So it's called WOOP. And it's so powerful. They use it in all sorts of walks of life. They use it in sport, people use it in business, they use it just in social situations. You can do it in loads of different scenarios. And it's all about visualization, which again is such a powerful tool. So the WOOP technique, I love it, and it works so well with students. So it's wish, then outcome, obstacles, and then the P is your plan. So you've got the four things. Now, the wish is you thinking, right, what, first of all, do I want to happen? Like, what is my objective? What is my aim? So for students, the wish would be, I'm guessing I want to pass this exam. Or maybe more short term, it might be I want to walk out of the exam room feeling like I've done well. It's that sort of, that's the short term goal is to do that. Then we need to think about the outcome. Now, this is the important step. You sit in there, you might even close your eyes and just imagining how it's going to feel when you meet that objective. So when you succeed in that wish. So I even go into the level of detail of, who are you going to tell that you've passed that exam? What are you going to do? You're going to go out for dinner? Are you going to have a drink? Are you going to go and celebrate with your friends? What are you going to do when you pass that exam? Or you really have to get into that mindset of almost imagining, fast forward until results day. I get that message saying I've passed. How is that going to feel? What am I going to do? Because again, it's just getting your brain used to it. It's like, well, yeah, this is what I imagined is going to happen. So therefore this is going to happen. So it's taken a minute, literally a minute. So that is quite a long time to really think about that in detail, just so you can visualize that success. Then what you've got to do is almost take a step back and go, right, what obstacles, so this is the second note, obstacles, might there be that could stop me getting there? And this is the bit that often people don't do. They sort of, you might do the visualization. It's going to feel amazing. Great. But then what you're going to do is sit down and think, right, what could stop me getting to that point over the next week? I've got a week left until exams. What could stop me doing that? So it might be that one of them is time management. It could be that I'm concerned that I'm going to run out of time in the exam. And then what you do is the final P, which is plan. So you then come up with a plan. If I am running out of time, this is what I'm going to do. And there might be another obstacle that is, if there's a question I don't like, that might be an obstacle to me passing. And again, you're then going to come up with a plan, right? If that happens, what I'll do is I'll do the other questions first. I'll then make sure I focused on the easy marks, etc. It's all about just almost scenario planning. So then on exam day, if those things happen, you just like, it's okay. I've thought about this. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm running a little bit low on time. No problem. I'm going to kick into my plan. Or that question isn't as I liked. I'm going to do this. Or maybe my numbers are a bit wrong. No worries. This is what I'm going to do. So it's just all about being really comfortable in those scenarios. And I love that, again, just to overcome any of those little barriers. And you can really think that through.
I really like that because WOOP is very easy to remember. So I'm sure everyone will go away and Google that. But I think it's a nice mixture of that aspirational, positive thinking, but with a really clear, practical plan in place as well. It's a nice mixture. And I guess that refers back to, if we're talking about the final week before exams, you can put that plan in place through practice, as you've already mentioned. Go onto the ACCA practice platform, do exam questions to time, like you say, so that you're fully prepared when you're in the exam itself to deal with whatever the real exam throws at you. So we've touched upon a little bit about what what impact negative emotions and beliefs about yourself can have on your ability to perform well. And I'm sure you've come across lots of different people who suffer from a lack of confidence and struggle to overcome those feelings of self-doubt. Are there common themes that come across when you talk to students who are preparing for exams?
Yeah, I think more and more in recent years, it's been about this fear of failure. And I think that's becoming a really big thing. People would almost rather defer this exam and not sit it rather than fail it. Like I'd rather, no, I'm not ready. I'm not 100% ready. I'd rather push it back. And it's that whole thing. Well, if you don't sit the exam, you're definitely not going to pass it. There's 100% certainty of the fact if you don't sit this exam, then yeah, there's absolutely no chance you're going to pass it. So there is an element of right, we've just got to go for it, but also just in the build up to exams, people are just so concerned. Oh, I'm really worried about it. I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to pass, and I think that isn't helped by social media to some extent. You know, you go on LinkedIn on around exam day, and it's just a sea of I've passed my exam, I've passed, I've qualified, I've done this. So people feel like, hang on a minute, there's everyone else is passing. Why can't I do this? But then you look at the global pass rate numbers, and it's like, hang on a sec, not everyone is shouting about this, are they? Not everyone's doing that. And also at work, people get pressure from their peers, from colleagues, and so on to do that. So I think that's one of the big things I've seen in recent times is people just not necessarily even nervous about the exam, but just more anxious about the result and really worrying about the fact if it doesn't go well. There are always going to be exam nerves. That's another thing that a lot of people find is a really tricky one. So again, for partly that reason potentially, or partly just the fact that they put so much effort and time in, and they want to pass it on this time round. So there is always that nerves. But with nerves, I think, I don't know if you've heard of this, but rather than seeing yourself as being nervous, you mentioned it at the start there, see it as being excited. So now I'm not nervous, I'm excited. You want to show off, and if you're not nervous, then that's why you're here. You want to try and show off, you want to try and do your best. So you want an element of adrenaline, you want a little bit of excitement going into these exams, because that will allow you to thrive. And it's just how you manage that ultimately.
Yeah, and I think that you've mentioned there I think it's very easy to compare yourself to others, and I don't know if you agree, but I feel like sometimes we're just prone to filtering out to only see to prove our theory correct. So we're looking for evidence that everyone else is passing and we're failing. So you filter out all the people who have failed an exam and gone on to pass. You're just focusing on the people who passed the first time, or people who seem to be in the exam centre without having a bead of sweat on their forehead. But you really don't know what's going on in other people's lives. You don't know what their exam experience is like. All you can do is control how you approach your own exam, I guess. So that leads me on to the other question I had for you, which is, what are your tips for countering those negative and unhelpful thoughts?
Well, one of the big things is about focusing on what you do know. There will always be elements of an exam, of a topic, of a syllabus that you are less comfortable with and you're unsure of. And a lot of people focus on those. Oh, I'm not great at this, or I can't do that bit. But just think about what you do know and how far you've come and the experience you've got. And suddenly you think, oh, actually, I am quite good at this. I'm a lot better at this than I thought I was. And I really like this trick, which is the power of the word yet. So you might say, I haven't mastered hedging. Or people say, I'm not very good at hedging. And you go, all right, okay. And you say, just pop the word yet after that. And suddenly your whole outlook on it changes. I'm not very good at hedging yet. And it's like, oh, okay, I will be one day. So it's the same going into exams. I haven't fully understood this. And then you just put yet on the end, and suddenly you're looking at it more positively. So it's that idea of, again, just focusing on what you do know, and then you can spend some time looking at the things you don't know as well.
Perfect. So moving on to nerves, we've mentioned nerves already, but they will have kicked in by this point for a lot, if not most students. So what's your advice on managing stress and nerves in the run-up to exams?
Yeah, the week before and the days before, it starts building up, doesn't it? And then obviously the night before and the day of the exam, it's sort of at the next level up. Make sure exercise is so important. So make sure people exercise, scheduling breaks as well, and having those regular breaks are going to be so important. go outside, go walk in nature. And people often do that, and then they'll take their phone with them, and they'll be checking their emails and everything else. So if you can, I know it's difficult, but if you can, going outside, walk in, if you've got some countryside or a park near you or whatever, that's even better. Try doing it without your phone and just really try and just take in things that are going on, and that will really help you to calm down. So that's a big one. Also, chat to people and chat to people who aren't doing exams. Now, this is an important one because a lot of people study alongside colleagues and friends who are also studying. But it's actually really nice just to chat to someone who's not in that world. So there might be family members or friends. Talk to them, and this exam that you're doing to them is a bit of a mystery. They don't really care that you're doing an exam, so they'll be telling you all sorts of stuff. I used to always chat to my granddad before exams because he'd tell me about all his ailments that he's got going on and what his friends have been up to and everything else, what's been happening at the old people's home. And it's just nice hearing people. It's that actually this exam isn't everything. Like, this isn't absolutely everything to us. So sometimes that perspective is really nice as well.
I think that's really, really important. I think just remember that this will be over soon. This exam isn't what defines you. It's something that you need to do in the next few days, and then it's done. Okay, so we're heading towards the end of the conversation. So I just wanted to get your final thoughts on a few bits about well-being. So you've mentioned go out for a walk, get exercise, talk to other people. It is hard for some people, I think, to switch off, and it's definitely hard when you're cramming. Well, hopefully not cramming too much, but when you're doing last-minute revision. How can students achieve that good balance between self-care and last-minute revision?
This is all about having a good schedule and having a really good plan. So build in breaks into your revision schedule. So say I'm going to study between, I don't know, let's say 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. I'm then going to give myself a break for an hour, and blocking in that break then doesn't make you feel guilty. I think a lot of this is about guilt, isn't it? I should be studying right now. And I get it the same, as I'm recording videos or whatever, I feel like, I should be recording now. But if you've blocked in a bit of time where you allow yourself to have a break and you think this is fine, I've said I can do that, that's really, really important. And also, don't feel bad about going to the gym or going for a run or going for a walk. Again, that's really, really important. And actually, it helps your brain to process all the things you've been learning. So sometimes it's not necessarily the best use of your time to be sat there looking through your notes when, again, you may be better off coming back to it fresh. So the big thing is just make sure you schedule in time to yourself. And that may be an entire evening, maybe Friday evening. You just go, right, I'm going to go to the cinema, or I'm going to go see some friends. Fine, that's not a problem. Don't feel bad about that, as long as you've got enough time booked in elsewhere to be able to study properly. So make sure you schedule it in. And again, just look after yourself, take after yourself, and be kind to yourself. Like, this isn't about you running yourself into the ground. And I saw some things on LinkedIn recently about, I studied until 2 a.m. every morning and all this. And again, it's just not going to work. I always say, good sleep is so important, especially a couple of days before the exam. Maybe stop studying at 7 p.m. or something a couple of days before, and just make sure you do get that relaxation time in as well.
And I guess going back to what you say about keeping things in perspective, if you're doing other stuff outside of revision, you're reminding yourself that the exam isn't everything. You do keep that sense of perspective at the same time as looking after yourself and refreshing your brain, so that when you come around to revising next time, you're able to focus and concentrate and retain information much easier. Thank you so much, Andrew. I wanted to ask you if you had any final tips before we wrap up.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that I find really useful. One of them is practicing the exam. So maybe do a mock or do a practice exam on ACCA's platform, but at the same time as your actual exam. So if your exam's in the morning, do a mock at the same time, maybe the weekend before. Again, and even down to eat the same breakfasts, maybe even wear the same clothes. You just want to get used to that routine. So then on exam day, it's like, of course I eat this breakfast. Of course I then do this, I then do that. You just want exam day to be almost just another day. And again, going back to the nerves and the anxiety, you just want to feel as relaxed and calm as possible. So sit a mock or a practice exam at a similar time to your actual exam. And again, go through the same motions, go through that same routine, which is great. I said there about eating breakfast. I'm all about making sure your diet and your nutrition is good as well. So the night before the exam, make sure you get some really good nutritious food. I always used to eat oily fish. So they say oil, like omega, is good for the brain. So that was one of my little pre-exam rituals. And then the morning of the exam, again, depending on what level you're doing, these exams are long and you need to make sure your body's fueled. The last thing you want is a couple of hours in to start feeling like you're really hungry and you can't concentrate. So make sure you have some good slow release carbohydrates and protein, get some nutrients. And I always used to eat a banana. That was my little thing before an exam. So just making sure your diet's really good as well.
It's funny you say that. I remember having a conversation with someone who's now a member, and he was talking about how he always took a banana into the exam. For some reason, he felt it grounded him, and he just knew his banana was there. Yeah. So yeah, find what works for you in the exam and what helps you keep as calm as possible. This has been such a good conversation, Andrew. Thank you so much. And like you said at the beginning, I think this is something that's really worth talking about. And I hope that students listening to this conversation will go away and try and apply some of the techniques that you've discussed to really help them build that positive exam mindset. This is all the time we have for this conversation, but we all wish you here the very best of luck in your exam. Remember, the next few days are really important, but do take time out for yourself and take care. And like Andrew said, be kind to yourself in the run-up to exams. So thank you to Andrew and thank you to everyone who's joined this conversation. Take care and good luck.